Hey folks, Joe Valley here. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Quiet Life Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. It's the person that is in the latest episode of the Quiet Giants series, where we highlight someone who's built, bought, or sold an online business. And in this case, it's a heck of a story. I'm going to jump right to the punchline so that you're intrigued and stick around and listen. This is a person that was offered $2.2 million for their business from an aggregator and convincingly told that it was the best offer they'd ever get for a number of reasons. She said, hell to the no, and went out and had some conversations, decided on Quiet Light, and the advisor that she worked with at Quiet Light ended up selling it for more than 2 times that amount. We won't give it the exact amount, but it was more than 2 times that amount. She is a former banker turned entrepreneur, Sumana Sanjeeva. Welcome to the Quiet Life Podcast. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Joe. It's really, really nice to be on your show. I've been watching so many of your podcasts. I never thought I would be on one of these. So thank you. Now
you get to watch it from home next time it airs. There you go. All right. So let's just get to your backstory a little bit. You have not always been an entrepreneur. I think the last time we chatted prior to buying the business that you ended up selling, you were a branch manager at a Bank of America located in North Carolina, correct?
Well, branch manager at a Wachovia Bank.
Wachovia Bank.
I know, prior to Wells Fargo acquiring Wachovia. And then I worked for Wells Fargo for about a year, then decided I think I am done with the corporate world and banking world. And that's when I actually started a math and English learning center. It was a brick-and-mortar franchise model. And I started with one, went on to starting 3. Actually, I went on to 3 locations. I enjoyed it for almost 7 years. I really enjoyed, talking to parents, students, teachers, working with them. It was all very fun. That's how I started with my entrepreneurship.
Did you end up selling that business?
I did. I actually sold that business. The plan was to first sell that before I did anything else. The plan was to take a break. My daughter, my older one, was going to college. There was just a year left before I kind of, sent her off to college, and I wanted to spend some time with her.
Did she want to spend any time with you, though? She's a teenage girl.
Right. Well, at least she used to say that. So, that, she wants to spend more time, and that whenever she got home from school, because it was a learning center, it was an after school program. So the business actually model was I was there from 4 p.m. till 8 p.m.
Tough schedule.
So when I would come home, they would be kind of ready to go to bed. So I really didn't see them much, during those times. And that was, that's kind of what her complaint was.
It sounds like a legitimate complaint. It's funny, I started a business in college called The Wrong Number, a restaurant delivery service. Kind of a silly name, but it worked. But the problem was it was from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight, 7 days a week. And what I learned early on was it's great to be an entrepreneur, but not with that kind of lifestyle. I was in school full time as well. So you got to choose your path. And you eventually chose an online business, and you chose to acquire one. Why did you decide to go online versus the brick and mortar path again?
Well, again, like I said, the plan was not to do anything at all and take a break. But I was actually online browsing and to kind of see how I can list my business for sale. That's really when I came across the e-commerce listing. Something in me said, I can actually be doing something at home. I can stay home because she would be gone to school all day. It's just at evenings, right? So it just felt like a right fit. As soon as I kind of read the description, I felt like, okay, this is something I can do when they are at school and still have something to have an income and have, kind of continue on with my entrepreneurial, career kind of thing. So that's really why I thought about it, because I could stay home, I could do what I wanted to do. And, it seemed like a one-person job. I didn't need to hire anybody. I didn't need to do anything. I didn't even need to handle any inventory. So it just sounded like a good fit.
Was this the 50th online business that you looked at, or was this one of the first ones that you looked at that you decided to buy?
It was actually, so the listing was for a different product, meaning same business model, but different product. But when I actually contacted the person who had listed that, they said, oh, well, this is sold, but we have another business, which is the same business model, but it's a different product.
Okay.
And so really this was, I should say, kind of like the first one I saw, and I said, this is what I want to do.
That's pretty amazing. So many people fight tooth and nail to find the right business to buy. And it seems like you, as luck and timing would have it. And of course, the harder you work, the luckier you get. What my baseball coach always used to tell me, because I wasn't very good and I had to be lucky, and I had to work hard. But it's not the normal path that you would look at one or two and then find one that was a very good fit for you. As I understand it, you purchased that business using an SBA loan. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the investment was very hefty. It was this good 7-figure investment. And this was my first ever e-commerce business that I was ever going to, that I had ever worked on. So I again, because the investment was so hefty, we went the SBA route. That was a good 2-month process. But I learned a lot through that process of applying for the loan and getting the approval, what documents they need, and all of that. It was a good process.
So let's talk some ballpark numbers. It was a 7-figure purchase. How many months did it take to turn around and sell it? I know it was at least 12, maybe 18. How many months did you own the business before you sold it?
Before I started to list it for sale, or when I decided to list it for sale, it was actually 12 months at that
Exactly
time.
12 months. And by the time we closed was maybe 15 or 16 months?
15 months, yeah.
Okay.
15.
And
yeah.
So call it 15 months from the time you bought the business to the time you sold it, how many times more did you get your money back? 2, 3, 4 times? You bought it for 7 figures. 5 times. 5 times. That's simply incredible. So I say that, folks, without revealing exact numbers, but it was a 7-figure exit and she got 5 times the investment, or 5 times the purchase back. We're talking about the total purchase price. We're not talking about your down payment, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I know these numbers, I know what they are, and I know the process, and I was there with you on a good part of the ride.
If we were to talk about just my down payment, then we actually 35x'd it.
35x'd it. That's amazing. Yeah. And you went right out and bought yourself a nice Mercedes after closing too, I believe.
Absolutely.
Good for you.
My husband said I deserved it. I said, okay, thank you.
I think he's right. So what did you do as you operated the business to have it grow at such a rapid pace during those 12 months? And I know that you bought it just before COVID hit, and there was, somewhat of a COVID bump, but it stayed on and rode after it settled down a little bit. But what did you do differently than the previous owner of the business to ensure that the business would grow at the pace that it did?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just something that I did that it worked, and it kind of scaled up there. It was a lot of small things and a couple of big things, right? So starting with when I first 3 weeks, actually, all I did was I clicked around, Joe. All I did was clicked around the listing, clicked on, different, products and listings. I'm like, oh, how can I improve this? What can I do with the packaging? Or it was just, I was collecting all of the ideas that I wanted to implement. The first thing that came to mind was the pricing of the product itself. When I acquired it, the previous owner actually had it as at a price where he wanted to stay competitive in the market. But for me, when I put my consumer hat on, for me, how do I shop on Amazon? Right, I go there, I look at the picture, the images, then I look at how many reviews does it have, and then I click on it. I go through the listing. If everything looks great, that's the product I'm purchasing. Pricing, actually, the price of the product comes the last for me. So if the product looks good, reviews are great, everything is good, that's the one I'm buying. Yeah, there might be a product right next to it, which might be $10 less. But for me, the review mode really, is important. So I immediately raised the price by $5 on each unit. Cool. So we had different variations, small, medium, large, and things like that. So I just, for everything, I just increased $5. And I wanted to test and see, okay, I'm going to test for about a week and see how much my sales drop. Based on that, I was going to, bring it back down if it was not working. To my surprise, we actually started selling a lot more units per day than
with the price increase. That's amazing.
Yeah, because it's kind of like also thinking about that consumer psychology, right? Higher price must be better quality, know. And yes, the quality was great. That's why we had great reviews. We were leading on first page, like we were on 4 different spots. So yeah, there was a lot of that, and that automatically actually increased our revenue. And
how big of a price increase is $5? Was it 10% or 5% or 50%? What was the?
It was actually 15%.
Okay. Right. About a 15% price increase. All right. Yeah. And your sales went up, which is great.
Yeah.
All right. You said there were 2 or 3 things that you did. What else did you do?
Right. And so we had PPC campaign. So after I kind of got through that process, I'm like, oh, this was an easy fix. Now see what else can we, work on. PPC, ACOS, tacos, all those were foreign words to me. I had never heard in my life. So I kind of then said, let me focus on this a little bit. Let's see what it's doing. So the more I learned about how ACOS works and all those numbers, I realized, wait, we are actually at a good ACOS. We were at 19% ACOS, but we were running out of budget for that campaign by the time it was 2:00 in the afternoon. And I was like, okay, that doesn't make sense. If it's at a good ACOS, we should be putting in more money. That means we are getting more sales. So we actually increased the budget for the campaign. We also started doing something called day parting, which is we were pausing the campaigns at 12 a.m. and starting it back at 6 a.m. because during those times, all we were getting were clicks. We were just spending the budget, but we were really not getting many orders or anything. So, but if that budget were to be carried over to the rest of the day, it actually was giving us better results. So I actually didn't know what day parting was. I simply asked the PPC management company. I said, do you have any way to pause at this time and start back? Because I see a lot of clicks. When I wake up in the morning at 9 o'clock, when I look at it, it's just a bunch of clicks and no orders. But then, can we do that? They're like, yeah, sure, we can do that. That was another.
So it wasn't actually you that was managing the PPC. You had, you inherited an agency that was doing it?
Correct. Yeah.
Fascinating. So, yet they couldn't figure this out themselves, right? Their job is to lower your ACOS as much as possible and spend as much money as possible. But they didn't. We won't mention their name in case you're still using them and like them a lot. But what's wrong with them figuring this out themselves and advising you on that?
Well, I've actually realized it's not just them. There are a lot of experienced, very well, experienced Amazon PPC companies, sellers that actually don't look at it in that way of like, okay, when are we really being, when is it being efficient? When is the campaign being efficient? When are we getting just clicks? When are we getting orders? For me, because it was I wanted to learn. So when you acquire something, I just kind of like, I just wanted to click around. And I think me not knowing many things, I think I questioned it a lot more than people who have been doing it for a long time, right? So it's kind of like, you kind of get used to it. We forget going to the basics because I didn't know what the basics were. I think that's one of the reasons why I caught it, where I was like, wait, it doesn't make sense. Why are we spending $100 between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m.? Why can't we take that $100 and put it towards later in the day? So I think it's just kind of one of those things that where I went back to basics or went to the basics.
Went to the basics. Did you end up increasing your overall PPC budget as well, or did you just shift that money and it didn't run out during the day?
No, we actually increased it. So when I acquired it, the daily budget was about $200. I increased it to $400 right away. And that actually, what it did was it brought our ACOS down because we had enough money in the budget for the peak times. The peak hours were 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. And before, what was happening was because the budget was low, we were running out of budget by the time it was 1 or 2 a.m. We were really not even taking advantage of the peak periods. So when we increased the budget, what happened was our sales went up, our ACOS came down, the quality of clicks were better.
All right. So between the two things here, you raised the price by 15% or $5, and you ended up spending twice as much money and spending that in the peak times when there were much more eyeballs on and sales volume went up.
Yep.
I'm guessing number 3's got something to do with making sure you don't run out of inventory.
All right, you got it, Joe. So inventory. So a lot of people ask me, was this just luck? Was this COVID? What was this? How did you do this?
This was pure brain power is what it was. That's what you just tell them. You're brilliant. Just say, I'm brilliant, and that's the end of it. That's the answer you give everybody from now on, but I'll let you give a different one now. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, I have to be humble. So, but, it is, inventory really was one thing that saved this business and grew this business. If inventory was not there, that's what happened with a lot of the businesses, in 2020 was when inventory planning didn't happen, everybody ran out of stock.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those things. I acquired this business in February of 2020, right when China was shutting down. And when I was actually putting in the offer and we were going through the SBA loan process, that was constantly in the back of my mind. I'm like, okay, wait, this product is coming from China. China is shutting down. What if I can't even get the product out of there? How am I going to make the loan payments? It's a hefty amount. But somehow, once I got into it, I was like, I had made up my mind that I'm going to make sure that, this is going to be a successful one. Mid-March, we were actually, so I acquired about $300,000 worth of inventory. And by mid-March, we had already sold half of it.
By mid-March. Was this because of everything shutting down in March of 2020?
Right. So this inventory that I acquired, the 300,000 inventory that I acquired, was supposed to last me until October. That's, that was a calculation by the previous owner with how the previous years had gone. And for me, it was kind of like a good thing that was happening. All of a sudden, I had this increase in sales because it was a product that everybody would enjoy in home with family, and so people started buying because the shutdown started to happen, and they realized, wait, we're going to be all bored in the house and stuck in the house. So we started getting a lot of orders, which was a great thing. We started getting that money into the account. Now I was like, wait, we were already out of half of the inventory. I only have this much. And China was also, they were in the New Year period. They were closed for that month. But somehow, luckily, I had already built up a good rapport with the supplier. I had already had a few video calls with her when all of this was happening with COVID. I made sure I asked how her family was and so many different things. So I actually asked her, I said, so when are you guys coming back? When is the production starting? Because I need to go ahead and place an order. And she said, Sumana, I think we're going to be back sometime in April, but we are going to produce on a first come first basis. So if you place an order now, when we go back to the factory, we are going to start producing. I said, okay, let me think about it, because I was not mentally prepared to place an order, meaning that inventory was supposed to last me until October. I was not supposed to do anything until August. So it was like, it kind of, I had to adjust my thought process. And I actually called her back and I said, I'm going to send you an Excel spreadsheet with 8 containers worth of orders.
Wow. She must have liked that.
Just like that, because I kind of looked at how the sales were going. And I was like, okay, if COVID's, in my mind, COVID's going to be there for at least 6 months. At that time, that's what I was thinking, right? So I'm like, in 6 months, how much would I need? Plus the holiday season, we have to be prepared for it. So I just decided to go ahead and give her 8 containers worth of orders because we had the funds coming in from the sales. And I knew that I would be able to fund those 8 containers with the sales that were happening. And if I didn't need it, I could, if we were on the 7th or 8th container of production, I could always tell her, I think, slow down a little bit, spread that a couple more months or something. So that was the idea. So I went ahead and told her, I want you to send 1 container every month. I told her on the 15th of each month, I want you to ship out a container. She was more than happy to take that order. Also, what it did was it actually eliminated my competitors from placing an order and getting it done through them because they had to produce 8 45-foot containers, not 20-foot containers, 45-foot containers worth of orders. So they actually didn't have any room to take any more orders from anybody else.
Wow. Accidental brilliance. That's what this is.
And math and logic too. In the great word, a great person named Joe Valley said math and logic. So I actually, from the time I, kind of heard that, it kind of makes sense. This was math and logic too, because if I were to bring the product in, for me to store that per unit in a 3PL warehouse, it would have costed 12 cents, right? But if I didn't have that same product to sell, then my loss is $11 per unit.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was my calculation. Even if I had to store it for 6 months, my total cost was 72 cents.
Yeah. And it's a product that doesn't go bad. So, exactly. Or expire in any way.
Yep,
okay.
Yep.
So let's jump to the fact that you actually sold the business. Did you at one point during the 6 to 9 months after owning the business think, you know what, I'd like to sell this. I'm going to reach out to an advisor, or like everybody else in the online world, did you get hit? You were an FBA, primarily FBA seller. Did you get hit with lots of emails from aggregators that led to you, receiving an offer and interest in actually exiting your business?
Yeah, so I actually started, I had not thought about exiting it. Because I was so busy making sure we were in stock, we were doing everything possible to, do good. I actually started getting emails sometime from the beginning of December in 2020, asking, if I wanted to sell. And I actually ignored that email 3 times. They sent it 3 times and I ignored all 3 times. The 4th time, I was like, you know what, let me explore this. By then it was January. of 2021. And I said, you know what, let me explore this. Let's see what comes out of this, because I, at that point, had done, with what I had learned, what my capacity was in the e-commerce world. I felt like, okay, if I have to do more, then I don't know how to. So I don't know how to scale this.
The business was already outgrowing you. So
exactly,
that makes sense.
Exactly.
Did you, the first, second, third email, were they all from the same aggregator or different aggregators?
Two different aggregators.
Two different aggregators. Okay.
Yeah.
By the time you got to the fourth one, you decided to hop on a call and have conversations with them.
Correct. I actually decided to meet with that person because they happened to be in the same town. And it seemed very promising. I provided all the P&Ls and all that information. He took a couple of weeks and came back with a very a number which I was like, wait, but I bought it for 3x. I'm not even going to get a 3x on this. Right. And their reasoning was, it's COVID numbers. But I'm like, wait, that's not just it. I actually put in a lot of I made a lot of changes. I switched warehouses from New Jersey to LA and cut down costs. So there were so many different things that I had done. So I felt like that was not a fair offer.
Yeah, and folks, this particular aggregator, but we won't name names here, but they're not one of the top 10 aggregators. Another aggregator ended up making a better offer to Sumana, that she ended up selling it for still more than 2 times what their offer was. But this particular aggregator is interesting because they originally started off making money by getting referrals, and these are the as I heard on a podcast recently, dirty tricks that aggregators play. This particular aggregator will review your business, make an offer. If you don't accept it, they'll then refer you out to another aggregator where they'll get a referral fee from that aggregator. And now, of all things, I just read up on them because it came up in conversation. Now they're, I want to say, pretending that they're M&A experts in the online space. And so essentially they failed at being an aggregator. And so they'd refer out and accept a referral fee. They failed at that too. So now they're trying to become an M&A advisor as well. So it's just some of the dirty tricks and cautious things you have to be aware of with the aggregators themselves.
That is actually, Joe, something that I learned much later. That's exactly what they were doing, that they were pretending to be aggregators who were very interested in my product just to turn around and refer, because I realized referrals actually get a hefty sum.
Yep. And that's what they were doing. They're down in Charlotte, and there's more than one. So I'm not naming which one, but they're down. Felt
pretty duped though, because it felt really kind of not so good.
Yeah, I fully understand it. The second aggregator that you spoke to made you a better offer. They made you an offer of $2.2 million, if I recall. With that one, I remember our initial conversations and some of the logic behind their offer. And tell me if I'm going to summarize it, and you tell me if this is about right and add to it. Basically, they said, "Here's the offer. We're very good at what we do." And these other folks, one of the top 10 aggregators in the niche, we're very good at what we do. We're charming. We're likable. We're well financed. You should believe us. Your business is only worth X. And we know that because of everything that we see. And you had a COVID bump and you have a hero SKU. So therefore, it's only worth X. Is that generally how the conversation went at the end of the day, to summarize it fairly?
That was actually exactly how the conversation went. And they actually made me feel like I didn't know what I was doing. Somehow by accident, I got here. So they were going to do me a favor and give me an offer. That's kind of how the conversation went. It was more of like we'll do you a favor and we'll take it off your hands.
Yeah. And so, I'm going to rant here for just a moment, and I'll try to keep it brief, but the aggregators play these dirty tricks because they are likable and charming and well-funded and can come across as incredibly well-informed, and they're very well-educated too. And they make you, the business owner, feel as though you're not necessarily worthy. That's not how they initially make you feel. They probably made you feel incredible about your brand in those initial emails and conversations. But then when it comes to the value of your business, they make you feel like this isn't what you do, it's what we do. And this is the value of your business. Keep in mind that when they're buying these things, they're doing it in whose best interest, Sumana? Theirs, right? They're not looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for their best interest.
Absolutely.
Which, when it comes to half the sales pitches that you get via email, and I just got a slew of them. One of our advisors had a business listed, and during that time, the owner of that business just collected all the emails from aggregators that he got and shared them with Chris. And in at least 40 of them, it says, avoid the broker fee. When buyers and sellers work directly, you can avoid the broker fee. In this case, if you had done that, you would have lost out on several $1 million. Now, they were correct that there was a COVID bump, right? COVID hit and your sales went up. You also increased the price by 15%. You also made sure that you never ran out of inventory. You also increased PPC spending, and you improved the timing of when it would air to peak times, and you changed the warehouse to reduce your landed cost of goods sold and all sorts of other things. So yeah, they were right, but you also did a lot of different things. They also said you had a hero SKU, which is, essentially one SKU with different variations that made up the majority of your revenue. And they were absolutely right about that. But they were dead wrong about what the business was worth, because what was it inside you that made you say, hell no, I'm going to get another opinion on this? Is there something in your upbringing that made you doubt them? Because a lot of people don't. A lot of people say, all right, yeah, you guys are really smart and good looking and charming and well-educated. And, I don't want to pay that broker fee. What was it in you, in your nature, that made you question their offer?
So that's a good question. So to put it in a way, I think I've always had situations where people have underestimated everything, it's a lot of things that I have done or planning to do, or kind of basically downplaying. So I've always kind of I'm used to saying, no, you're not right. I can do it. This is not right. What you're saying does not make sense, kind of thing. And like I said, when I acquired this business, I paid 3x. So today, why is it not even worth 3x? That's simple common sense for a minute, right? Yes, I understand COVID numbers, but if you look at it, if I did not order those 8 containers worth of inventory, we would not have the same success we had. If I had not switched the warehouse from New Jersey to LA, A, we saved a lot of money. B, it helped us stay in stock, because as soon as it was being sent, within 2 weeks, it was reaching LA instead of taking 8 weeks to get to New Jersey. That would have killed the business, right? So it would have taken forever to get there. Every time we would have been out of stock, the rankings would have gone down. So there was like, what you're saying does not make sense. It was not just COVID numbers. There was a lot of things. The pricing, we can continue to have at that price, because the price change I did before COVID was an issue in the country. Mm-hmm. So it was not after. So yeah, after it was just going through, but the price change was not, so all of the things that they were saying, I'm like, no, that is not right. It's not just COVID. So for me, that was kind of a challenge. It felt like I needed to take that challenge, and I knew that was not right. That's really when I decided to talk to different brokerage companies to kind of see who's going to be the right fit to actually get me what it's worth.
And you chose Quiet Light. Specifically, you chose to work with Chuck at Quiet Light. What was it about the combination there that made you most comfortable?
So just to kind of give you a quick background, I know you didn't ask me for this, but
Hey, would you give me a quick background first, though? There you go.
I actually went to three different companies. The first one I actually approached was somebody that I had already that I had actually acquired
the business from. Right.
So, I was like, oh, well, he already knows the business. He has all the information from the previous, all the P&Ls and everything from the previous, sale and all that. But unfortunately, somehow I felt from him as well that he didn't believe in what I had put into this business, what I had done. All the, yes, it was a short period, but all of the differences that it made, all the changes that I had made, I felt like he didn't really backing me up on that. So, sometimes you want somebody who understands and actually sees it for everything. So that's really what I got from Chuck when I talked to Chuck. I felt like he believed in the business. He believed in all of the changes that were made to it actually made a difference. That is why it scaled up to this level, and not just because of COVID. And just talking to Chuck, it just made me feel very comfortable. I'm like, oh, he's going to do everything possible to make sure that I get a fair offer. I was not looking for the highest offer or the best offer, or I want so much. My expectations were a fair offer. And there was just some kind of a comfort level when I was talking to Chuck. It just felt really like I can talk to him. I can relate. When he says something, it was not like he was challenging me, or he was, kind of like downplaying me, or kind of underestimating things. He felt like he was giving that level of respect, I would say, that any individual would look for. When we have something in our mind, we want to do something. It's like when I go to if I sell my house, you don't want a realtor who will be like, this, I don't know who's going to buy it. You don't want people to downplay. Yes, they might be talking about it, talking like that, to say, okay, today I'll say this, but I'll get them a great offer and they'll be happy about it. But right off the bat, if you if you say my house is not great, you're not going to get many offers. I'm like, oh, okay, then why should I even do it, right? So yeah. It's kind of like that. But Chuck gave me I had that good vibe from him that he was going to do what it was going to take.
And when you listed the business for sale, you listed it for a couple of $1 million more than the last offer that came in from one of those top 10 aggregators, or close to it, right?
Yep. A couple more.
Okay. And so you went through the process of getting it prepared to sell, which is quite a process we put people through. It's a great educational process because we get to learn a lot about the business, and as do you, your own business. It was not, for the record, folks, not just sent out to aggregators. And by the way, in 2021, only 30% of all of Quiet Light's transactions were sold to aggregators. Not everybody is an aggregator. In fact, most people are not. But Chuck didn't just send it out to the aggregators, which we're learning from the aggregators that most other brokerage firms are doing. They don't like working with Quiet Light because they don't get first dibs on listings. They know that the general public's going to see it as well. And by the way, that creates competition amongst buyers, and creating competition amongst buyers results in multiple offers. And that's exactly what happened with you. If I recall, you had maybe, was it a total of 7 offers, or am I inflating that?
Yeah. So we had actually 14 calls with 14 buyers in a period of 2 weeks, which was a lot of calls. We actually got 7 offers. We were very close to accepting an offer. We actually were there. But before that LOI came in, someone else also placed an offer last minute.
Yeah.
And actually, I remember getting on a call with you, Chuck and I, actually, because I was so confused. I know Chuck did a great job of walking through all of those offers, and I said, you know what, we need a little bit more math and logic here. So let's go to Joe for a second opinion. So I remember doing that. We did not take the highest offer that was on the table. We actually took an offer from a company from who actually believed in this product, who really liked the product, who liked the business, who had a great team to take care of it. They had earnouts and other components in there, which was great. For me, I also rolled in some equity and all that. But my point is, we didn't take after talk. That was the great advice I got from both Chuck and you. The process was so good that I didn't make the mistake of taking the highest because we, normally, that's kind of what we do is we look at what's the highest offer because this is something that we would have earnouts and things like that. It was great advice from both Chuck and you.
Sometimes the best offer is actually not the highest offer at closing. And in this particular case, just to clarify, the offer that you had received and were waiting on the LOI, normally the team at Quiet Light will draft the LOI and put it in the hands of the seller, in your hands to review and accept, and then off to the buyer. In this case, the buyer insisted on drafting the letter of intent. They just dragged their knuckles. And I had sold a business to them in the months prior. I sold them something in December of 2020. And they're good people. And we talked about them. I said, yeah, they're good buyers. They've been trustworthy, and I think they'll close. And that's the key is, what's the experience we have with these buyers, and do we trust them, and will they get through due diligence, and will they close? And these people checked all the boxes, but they just didn't respect your time and submit a letter of intent in a timely fashion. And during that time, another offer came in, and that's what we all jumped on the call for. And that other offer, if I recall, it had all-in value with earnout and equity roll and things of that nature, at least another $1 million involved there. Is that right? Am I remembering that correctly? I can't remember who I spoke to yesterday, but for some reason, all the points of this particular deal stand out pretty clearly.
I'm just that special, Joe. No, yeah, you're right. And that offer really, I actually really enjoyed that offer because it had earnout and it had equity rolling in a lot. I still get to be involved with it. And I'm learning from them as well as they're making changes to that. I'm like, oh, okay, that I wouldn't have thought about that and things like that. So definitely that was a great offer. It was actually, with all the earnouts and everything, it was about asking price. So, which was, cherry on the top.
Absolutely. Just for the purposes of the folks that are listening here, what can you define what an earnout is in this situation, and what percentage of your purchase price was an earnout?
So earnout is something, it's based on performance. If the business performed at a certain level after purchase, and at the end of 1 year, we would have a percentage of that coming to me, the seller. The percentage was 10% of the sale price.
10% of the sale price.
Right. But dollar figure wise, it comes to 10%, but it's actually dollar figure is on the agreement. And
it hasn't been a full year, but are you able to see how it's tracking? Are you going to get paid out on that full 10%?
So that's something that I'll have to kind of really now sit down and look at all of the conditions that were there. And I'm one of those people, once it's done, once the paper was signed, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it out at the end of that 1 year. when it comes time to sit down and look at it. I have not done that yet because that's a conversation, that's a meeting to have with them. And I do actually talk to them very often because I am still a part owner of that business. So
yeah, and that part's an equity role, meaning not ROLE, but ROLL. You kept ownership in some of the assets of the business, and it rolled into the new co that they founded. And with the objective of having a second exit someday. What percent did you roll into the new co in this situation?
7.5%.
7.5. And what kind of work do you have to do in order to, I don't know, retain that 7.5%? Any at all?
Yeah, well, initially, with the transition and everything, there was, I would say maybe I was spending about 5 hours a week on that. Then
that's pretty standard. This during the training and
Right.
transition period, that would happen. Yeah. That would have happened without an equity role.
Exactly. Yeah. And then after a couple months, it kind of came down to 2-3 hours a week. Then it was on need basis. And then recently we kind of, I helped them launch another product. That was also one of the things that they really wanted to do. It was to launch more SKUs. So I helped them through that process. They actually launched it. Once the launch happened, now I kind of like, they call me whenever they have a question or something, and we talk through it. If I don't know, I kind of let them know that I don't know. I will find out about it and I'll let you know. And we kind of have, I think maybe once a month, maybe for about half an hour, we talk about it. But they have that confidence that whenever they have questions or they need me, I'm always here to help them through that process.
And for your 7.5%, are there distributions that are received, or is the agreement to be no distributions until there's an exit? How's that work out?
No, there's distribution.
So you're getting, do you get distribution? So if they decide to take out $100,000 in distributions, you're going to get the equivalent of 7.5% of your share of that.
Correct.
Is it done on a consistent monthly basis, quarterly basis, or just random?
Yearly.
On a yearly basis. So it'll be at the end of the first calendar year and so on and so
Correct.
forth. Correct. Excellent. Okay.
So, and it goes the other way too. If they have to put in some equity, if they have to raise funds or whatever, then it came up where they were stocking up on inventory and things like that. So they raised a little bit more, and the option was given: do you want to kind of let go of some of the equity, or do you want to put in a little bit more? So that choice is up to me.
So your shares could have been diluted, or if you decided to pitch in for the inventory, your shares wouldn't be diluted. Which one did you choose?
I actually chose to dilute, but at the same time, that conversation just happened. After that conversation, I think at this point, I'm like, you know what? No, I think we are doing pretty good. So I think I'm going to keep the share.
So they're doing well with the business. It's growing. It's a good investment. They're getting a good positive return.
Absolutely.
Good to hear. What advice, I'm pausing here because I'm choosing my words very carefully, and I don't know why, right? The aggregators say whatever the hell they want to say and disparage brokers all the time. Yet they love buying from us because we do such a good job putting packages together and make their job easier in terms of vetting the business. So it's just a sales pitch. But for anybody in your shoes, and there's lots of people that are listening that have e-commerce businesses and some Amazon FBA businesses as well, that are getting emails, phone calls, snail mails, knocks on the door from aggregators in the US and overseas. What advice do you have for them when they're fielding these offers? What advice or what kind of wisdom could you impart to them to make sure they don't make a big mistake?
First advice I would give is not to do it on their own, to be honest with you. I made that mistake of, kind of going to somebody thinking that, I could do it all, by myself. But when I actually started this process, I learned so much about this process that I didn't know at all. And if I had actually gone ahead and taken any of those offers that I received from the aggregators directly, that would have been such a huge loss. I mean, so many millions of loss. And also, it's something that I've also seen when we were on calls with buyers, other aggregators, when I was, on calls with Chuck. There were a lot of times where I actually didn't know the answer for it. And sometimes Chuck had to jump in to actually clarify what they were asking, because there were some times where I didn't understand what it was they were asking. I could have given them a wrong answer, and kind of had those offers come in at that level, and made a mistake of accepting one of those. That is the one thing that I strongly actually suggest, is making sure you have a good broker on your side to negotiate. Also, when we are doing it ourselves, the negotiation, sometimes we don't even realize when we have kind of given in. But even, I've had several times when I wanted something, but I didn't know how to ask for it. There was, so I was like, Chuck, can you get? So he was a good, buffer for both ends, I think, so that we didn't kind of clash and burn kind of thing. And offers wise, to keep an open mind for different kinds of offers. I received so many straightforward cash. Somebody wanted earn out, 3 years down the line. So many different offers, and keeping an open mind, really discussing it with Chuck kind of helped me understand it. Otherwise, I would have taken a very bad offer, which was just thinking, oh, it's cash. I want to just take the cash and run.
Right.
And I would have done a mistake if I didn't kind of keep an open mind about it. There are many, many, many ways of making sure that you get the best value for your business.
Yeah, most people think when they go into this, they just want an all cash offer. That's what they're looking for. And it happens the majority of the time, but as the size of listings get larger, the more chances of having some variation of a seller note, earn out, equity roll, et cetera, comes into play here. So you just have to get to know your 14 people that you interviewed and your 7 offers, and then which ones you like the most. Some of them you're not going to trust at all, and some of them you're really going to trust and feel more comfortable doing what you did, which is an equity role. And essentially you're a business partner / strategic advisor to them for very, very little work. And eventually they'll have an exit of that business. I'm assuming that particular aggregator is doing the same as all the others. They're buying up these businesses and they're buying them at a certain multiple, and immediately becomes worth a lot more because of the size of their portfolio, right?
Absolutely. So that is also their plan as well. So, and I think other aggregators are right now very focused on acquiring. The company that I'm working with, they are actually acquiring at the same time. They're working hard to grow it, adding more SKUs, adding more different things. Which this is from some of my entrepreneurs that I talk to, some of the peers, they say, well, theirs actually had been acquired, but they didn't do anything with the business. I am glad, because when I have the equity interest in there, I'm glad that they're doing, growing it. And their ultimate goal is to exit for a good sum, which is good.
That's very good. And you'll become a second-time exitpreneur. You're also an acquirer of online businesses now as well. How many have you purchased since you sold the business? You've bought?
I have acquired 3. Mm-hmm.
Did you take any time off? Did you rest? Did you enjoy life and the fruits of your labor?
Again, the plan was to do that. Just like my other exit from my brick and mortar, the plan was to take a break. that didn't happen. Same here. I had a week and a half break when the first listing, came to my attention, and I acquired it actually almost right away, right after this exit, and I'm enjoying that. So yeah, two of them were Chuck's listing. I acquired one of Ryan's listings. So I just right before this, I had a call with another seller to acquire another one.
How are you juggling all of this? Do you have a team of VAs now, or is it still just you, yourself, and I kind of thing?
Yeah, so me, myself, and I.
Really?
Yeah, I'm actually enjoying it because all of the things that I learned, not just when I was running the business that I exited, but all of the things I learned from acquiring, scaling, exiting, everything, it's all kind of, coming into play when I'm acquiring these new businesses. I'm keeping that in mind. I'm like, okay, what did we do? What opportunities did I have with the previous business? So I'm kind of looking at those opportunities, and it's kind of become like a playbook at this point where I know what works and what worked and what didn't work. And if it didn't work, can I still make it work with this one? It's kind of become very much of a learning process. I'm enjoying that process, and at the same time, it's kind of like I have this playbook that I can go back and look at it and say, hey, what did I do with this here?
And is your plan to exit these additional 3 brands that you now own?
Yes, the plan is so I have acquired these businesses with that in mind, where how much can I actually scale? What should be my timeline? What should be my goal? So I've kind of set some goals for it, and I'm working towards it. Once we meet those numbers and everything, yes, definitely.
So many people will say, I love my business. I'm making plenty of money in my business. Why would I ever sell? Your story exemplifies the fact that, especially in a rapidly growing e-commerce business, that the majority of the money you'll ever make from the business comes the day that you sell it. Do you think, and clearly that's the case in this one because you bought it for 7 figures. You got what, 35 times your down payment on the SBA loan back, and over 5 times in what you purchased it for. For these other businesses, do you envision that the majority of the money that you'll make will be on the exit as well, or are you profiting wildly along the way?
So we've started profiting. So actually, it's one of those things that I'm not looking at profits right now. So that my kind of thought process with acquiring businesses and scaling it, when you scale it, we cannot be profit oriented,
right?
Until a certain point. So right now, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. The previous business too, the one I exited, yes, we were actually making good bit of profits, went well. But I was reinvesting a lot of that money into it. Definitely, that's there. So it's. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
But exit is going to be one of those. If we don't have a good SDE, then we cannot have a great exit. So I am focused on a good SDE as well, meaning cost cutting and different things will actually have good SDEs. So yes, everything that I'm doing with these business is keeping an exit in mind.
And it's the right way to do it, I think. Obviously, you figured it out. You had your first incredible exit. You're going to have several more. And hopefully after the next, I guess there's 4 that you're going to buy. You're going to take a break and take some time off and enjoy life a little bit as well. Folks, the impetus for this particular podcast is connecting with somebody that's just had an incredible exit, but also because we are launching the Next Quiet Giants series. It's a short film on Sumana's story, her background, a little bit more in depth about her life and the process that she went through to get to where she is today. So we'll share that in the show links, and keep an eye out for your emails. If you subscribe to the Quiet Light emails, Chris, our CMO, will be sending out lots of emails about the episode as it comes up. And I don't recall how long it is. It's probably somewhere in the 15 to 25 minute length period, but I'm sure it took a day and a half or two to shoot. And you're probably very happy that shoot is over, correct, Sumana?
Yeah, it was actually 3 days.
3 days.
3 days, 12 hours each day, which was a lot of fun, but very exhausting. Chris is very, very fun to work with. He made every process of it a lot of fun. My kids enjoyed it. They got to be in it. So it was definitely, I'm looking forward to it. And I was going to say, knowing me, I talk a lot. So I'm sure it's in the 20, 25 minutes. So, but it was a great experience. A lot of things when we talked about it, I actually got to think back from where I started. Where were we 25 years back when we came here? How did we get here? What did we do? A lot of those things, I think, a lot of times we don't sit and take the time to think about it. But this actually gave us the opportunity to, give me the opportunity to kind of go back and think, oh, wow, just kind of like, wow, really, we got here. This 25 years, what we did is all here.
It's an incredible journey that you've been on. I can't wait to watch the full episode myself. Thank you for sharing your story today and in the filming, the 3-day filming as well. It's going to help a lot of people, inspire them, and get them on the right track. And sharing your story about this simple, let me just check and see if there's a better offer out there process when you got that offer from both aggregators and you doubted it. And it turned out that you were right. Your business was worth several million more than what they were offering you. So I appreciate you spending your time with us today. I'm looking forward to watching the episode, and I hope to see you soon. We don't live that far from each other, so one of these days we actually have to get together for coffee.
We definitely do. We'll do that soon. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's an honor.
My pleasure.